My name is Anne. I'm 70. It still surprises me sometimes when I say that out loud. 70. It doesn't feel like it. Some mornings, sure, my knees remind me, and the stiffness in my fingers whispers it too. But inside, in that place where memories live, I'm still walking down dusty roads barefoot, balancing a loaf of bread and a jar of milk in one arm, pocketing leftover change with the other. I live in a small apartment, 2 bus rides from my son's house. The place is simple, but mine. Pale curtains, a potted plant I talk to sometimes. The windows face west, so I get the best light in the evenings. A kind of orange warmth that settles over everything, like a quiet promise that the day didn't go to waste. My husband passed away 15 years ago. Heart, quick. He left me with very little, not because he was irresponsible, but because we had always lived simply, modestly. We didn't need much. We cooked at home, repaired instead of replaced. I still darn my socks. I raised my son Daniel with the same values, or at least I thought I did. He was always sharp, good with numbers, good with words. He married young to a woman named Kelly, bright, organized, sharp-tongued. They have 2 girls now, Abby and Lucy. They are sweet with me in the way children are, instinctively gentle, curious, asking me questions about my olden days. I visit often. I bring food, soups, muffins, the kind that keep well. Sometimes I slip a little cash into the pantry drawer when I know they're tight that month. No one says thank you for that, but I don't do it for thanks. And yes, I collect change. Always have. I don't need to, but I do. Coins from the market, from the bus, from under couch cushions. I've kept jars over the years. Little ones, big ones. A habit more than anything, not a necessity, not anymore. But people see it differently now, especially Kelly. She sees it as a quirk at best, an embarrassment at worst, a sign of weakness maybe, or poverty. But it isn't. It never was. It's just me. I never minded being quiet or modest or helpful in the background until the way they started looking at me made me feel smaller than I am, until silence stopped feeling like grace and started feeling like erasure. But I didn't say anything. Not then, not yet. Because I've been saving more than coins. I've been saving time, quiet, dignity, and one day soon I'll spend it. It was a Sunday evening, the kind that begins to smell like laundry detergent and roasted chicken. I had come over as usual around 4. Lucy had texted me earlier, or maybe it was Abby, asking if I could come by to help with dinner and just hang out. I never say no, not because I feel obligated, because I like being part of their lives. Or maybe, more truthfully, because I still cling to the belief that being present is a form of being remembered. When I arrived, the kitchen was already buzzing. Kelly was standing at the stove, her hair tied up high and tight like a ballerina, stirring something in a pan while giving instructions to no one in particular. Daniel was setting the table, glancing at his phone between placing forks and napkins. The girls were somewhere in the back, arguing faintly over whose turn it was on the tablet. I put down my tote bag, filled with a small casserole I'd made the night before, and a brown envelope with $20 and a note that said, "For school snacks." I didn't expect it to be mentioned. I never did. Dinner was loud, as it always is with young children in a tired household. There were clinks of silverware, bursts of laughter, and the usual reminders from Kelly to chew with your mouth closed, or don't lean your chair back. I sat near the end of the table, not quite at the head, but in the kind of place that implies you're both important and quietly peripheral, like a relic someone doesn't want to throw away, but also doesn't know where to place. After dinner, Kelly brought out a small dish where she usually tosses change, leftovers from shopping or gas station runs, receipts crumpled underneath. "Here," she said casually, setting it in the center of the table. "Some of this might be yours. I used cash at the store." She turned to grab dessert, already moving on. The others were clearing plates. I reached into the dish without thinking, habit really, and began separating the coins. Quarters, dimes, a few nickels. Not much. A little under $3 maybe. I do this often. They don't usually notice. But this time was different. Kelly's voice cut through the background noise, not cruel exactly, but loud enough to be heard clearly. Are you collecting change again? It's already kind of pathetic, Mom. The room paused, not stopped, not dropped into full silence, but paused, in that way where everyone hears something and quickly pretends they didn't. There was a moment of nothing, a beat, then a short laugh from Kelly, like she was trying to soften it, wrap it in humor. The girls didn't laugh, they just looked down. Daniel said nothing. He just cleared the plates faster, more noisily, like that would change the air. I didn't reply. I smiled. It was the kind of smile that rises automatically, the way one smiles when someone you love hands you a disappointment wrapped in polite paper. I picked up the coins slowly, one by one, and placed them gently into the side pocket of my coat. I could feel their eyes on me, or maybe just imagined it. It didn't matter. I knew then, fully, that I had become a background character in their home. Useful, familiar, but no longer seen clearly. My thrift, once a strength, was now a punchline. And even though my mouth was closed, my heart whispered something soft and certain. You won't get to laugh at this twice. But I said nothing, because some things speak loudest when left unsaid. That night, after the dishes were done and the girls had been kissed good night, I slipped on my coat and told them I'd be going. No one asked me to stay longer. Daniel gave me a light pat on the back as I reached the door, the kind you might give to a neighbor you respect but don't really know. Outside, the air was cool and smelled faintly of dry leaves and someone's laundry vent. I waited for the bus, just like always, sitting on the little metal bench with the cracked plexiglass behind me and the peeling schedule taped to the pole. As the bus approached, I touched the coins in my pocket. They were still warm from my hand. By the time I got home, the sky had gone dark. My apartment welcomed me with its usual quiet. No television, no clicking heels, or toys strewn across the floor. Just the soft hum of the fridge and the faint creak of the radiator heating the pipes. I stood for a long while at the kitchen table. I hadn't turned on the lights yet. The moonlight through the sheer curtains made everything in the apartment look dim and peaceful. My hand, still in my coat pocket, tightened around the coins. I pulled them out and set them down, gently, on the counter. And then I opened the drawer. It's a small drawer in the sideboard. Most people wouldn't even notice it. It sticks sometimes and needs a bit of a tug. Inside are the jars, my little secret, lined up like soldiers in a memory parade. Some tall, some short, none of them fancy. Each jar is tied with a ribbon, reused from gifts or found at thrift shops. I like the ritual of tying a ribbon. It makes something feel finished. The first jar reads, Children's Camp. Inside are mostly quarters and small bills. I started saving it years ago, back when Lucy was born. I thought maybe one day I could send them to summer camp, one of those good ones, with kayaking and art tents and campfire songs. It felt hopeful. The second jar, Unresolved Debts. This one started after Daniel and Kelly bought the new car. There had been stress in the house, whispers of missed payments. I told them I'd help if they ever needed. They never asked, but I saved anyway, just in case. The third jar is more mysterious. No answer. It's filled with a mixture of foreign coins, faded dollars, even an old Metro token. It's a jar for things I didn't know what to do with. Loose ends, maybe. Misunderstandings that never got spoken aloud. It feels heavier than it is. But the fourth jar, the one with no name, is different. It's larger. The glass is thick, the kind that used to hold bulk candy in old stores. No ribbon, no note, just weight and value. There are bills in there, folded tightly, and coins in little paper rolls, neat and exact. I've been adding to it for years, quietly, slowly, sometimes $5, sometimes a few cents, always with purpose. It is my answer. No one knows about this jar. No one has asked, because no one has imagined that I might be doing more than just collecting coins. That night, I pulled it from the drawer and placed it on the table. I turned on the lamp, the soft amber light spilling across the table, illuminating the contents. Then I took out a folder from the drawer underneath. Inside, a contract for a piece of land by the lake, a payment ledger showing each installment made month by month, a photo, printed on cheap paper, of a one-room cottage, unfinished but solid, a final form, unsigned, the deed. All that was left was my signature. I stared at it for a long time. My pen sat beside it like a question mark. This was never meant to be a secret. It was just never anyone's business. They thought my modesty was smallness, but really it was space making. I was carving something for myself, slowly, like water carving a path through stone. I reached out and picked up the pen. I didn't sign yet. Not that night. Instead, I closed the folder and tied a ribbon around it. Some decisions need one last sleep, not because we're unsure, but because when we do finally move, it must be with full peace. And mine was arriving. The first time I saw the lake, it was a mistake. I had gotten off the bus 2 stops too early, on my way to visit an old friend in hospice. It was a raw November afternoon, the kind that smells of pine needles and damp soil. I had tucked my scarf tighter, thinking I'd walk the rest of the way. But something pulled me off the sidewalk, a glimpse of water through bare tree branches. I followed a dirt path between old cedars, worn but walkable, and there it was. The lake. Not a tourist lake, not the kind with docks and cafes and boat rentals. Just a quiet, open basin of silver blue water, ringed by low hills and sleeping grass. The surface was still, not frozen yet, and the sky above it had the kind of wide, unbothered silence I hadn't felt in years. I stood there for 10 minutes, maybe 20, maybe more, and when I finally walked away, I whispered to myself, I want to end near that stillness. A week later, I went back, on purpose, took the same route, same bus, this time getting off early with intention. I brought a thermos of tea and a notebook, sat on a fallen log, and watched the light shift over the water. That's when I noticed the sign, tucked halfway into the brush, partially rusted, leaning to one side. Lot number 17, for sale by owner. Call James. The number was handwritten beneath, faded but legible. It was like the world had placed it there just for me, exactly when I needed it. James turned out to be in his late 50s, a retired plumber who had bought 3 adjacent parcels years ago with dreams of building lakeside cabins for rent. Only one ever got built. Then life, a divorce, a heart issue, too many other things, slowed him down. Now he was letting go. Lot 17? He said over the phone. It's just land, nothing on it, some clearing, no water hookup, no electric. That's all right, I said. It's a long way from town, he warned. I know, I replied. That's part of the charm. We met 2 days later. I wore my church coat, the one with the strong buttons and the wool lining. We walked the perimeter together, him explaining boundaries and topography. I nodded, listening, but mostly I was just feeling it. There was something about that plot. It wasn't just the view. It was the shape of it, the way the light fell between the trees. It felt like possibility, like quiet had laid down roots and invited me in. The price was modest for land, still more than I could pay all at once. I can do installments, I told him, but I'd like to draw up a clear agreement. He chuckled. You're sharp, he said. Good. I've sold to family before without paperwork. Big mistake. We shook hands. He gave me a folder. I gave him the first payment, mostly coins, rolled and counted, tucked into envelopes. For the next year, every month I paid. Quietly, always on time. No one knew, not Daniel, not Kelly, not even the girls. I didn't hide it out of shame. I just wanted something, finally, that was mine from start to finish. No justifications, no judgment, no, why would you do that, Mom? Or is that practical? Or what would you even do there? What I would do is breathe. What I would do is remember who I was before I became everyone else's helper. By spring, the lot was fully mine. James mailed me the final packet, including the unsigned deed. Just send it back with your signature, Anne, he wrote in tidy penmanship. And she's yours. I didn't sign it right away. Instead, I made a list. Have roof reinforced on the one-room cabin. James offered to help. Add insulation, fix wood stove, bring my grandmother's tea kettle from the top shelf in my apartment. Make it enough. I kept adding little things. A bench, a hook for coats, a shelf for my books. The idea of comfort without clutter, warmth without noise, and when I felt ready, not rushed, not provoked, I signed. I didn't tell anyone. There was no announcement, no ribbon cutting, no look what I've done, because this was the kind of triumph that doesn't need applause. This wasn't about proving anyone wrong. This was about proving to myself that I was still capable of building something lasting, not out of resentment, but out of quiet strength, out of the same coins they laughed at. It was a Tuesday. That was deliberate. Not a Sunday when they might expect me. Not a Friday when plans were being made. Just a regular weekday, the kind that slips past unnoticed, easy to be forgotten, easy to disappear into. I woke early, not because I had to, but because my body still remembered the rhythms of motherhood. Waking before the sun, quietly putting the kettle on, taking care of others before they ever asked. But this time, I wasn't making breakfast for anyone else. This time, I was leaving. The night before, I had packed my bags. Not dramatically. No suitcases piled by the door. Just one rolling bag, well worn but clean, and a canvas shoulder tote with my books, my knitting, and a photo album wrapped in a dish towel. I didn't need much. That was the point. I went room by room in my apartment, touching things I wasn't bringing. The second teacup, the extra coat, the sewing basket I never really liked. I left it all without sadness. When you've carried a family on your back for decades, letting go of objects feels surprisingly light. I paused at the shelf with the jars. The drawer was already open. 3 of them stayed behind. Children's camp, unresolved debts, and no answer. I'd cleaned them out, emptied them gently, and washed each glass by hand, as if preparing them for a new story they'd never be part of. But the unnamed jar, that one came with me. I wrapped it in a towel and placed it carefully in the bottom of my bag, beside a worn folder containing the signed deed, a hand-drawn map of the lake trail, and a bundle of mail redirect forms. I stood in the doorway of my apartment and took one final breath of it. Lavender from the sachets, something warm and faintly sweet, like old wood and cinnamon. I didn't say goodbye. I simply closed the door and turned the key. My son's house was quiet when I arrived. It was mid-morning. Kelly had likely gone to work. The girls would be at school. Daniel was probably at his computer upstairs, in that tucked-away home office where I was never allowed to bother him unless it was important. I let myself in. I still had a key. The hallway was exactly the same. Family photos, finger-painted drawings framed with pride, shoes half tucked into the rack. I walked slowly, deliberately, letting my footsteps remind me that I had walked these floors more times than I could count, with casseroles, with wrapped gifts, with advice I swallowed back for peace. I placed the apartment key on the entryway hook next to theirs. No note, no explanation. Then I walked into the kitchen. There, on the table, I set the jar. The unnamed one. It was heavier now, not with coins, but with meaning. I had emptied it, cleaned it, and filled it with one thing only: absence. No money, no words. Just a jar, perfectly clean, crystal clear. You could see straight through it, to the chair I always sat in, to the corner where I used to peel apples for the girls. Beside it, I placed a small folded note, not handwritten in haste, but typed, deliberate, printed on plain white paper. Just one sentence. It's not what's packed that's pitiful, it's what's lost. I didn't cry. I didn't linger. I walked out the door and closed it gently behind me, like the last page of a book I had finished long ago, but had kept rereading, hoping the ending might change. The bus was late, but I didn't mind. I stood there in the spring air, feeling both invisible and utterly free. A woman next to me, young, earbuds in, asked if I wanted to sit on the bench. I smiled and shook my head. Number I'd been sitting quietly for long enough. This time I would stand. They didn't call right away. That part surprised me, if I'm being honest. I had expected a flurry of calls the same afternoon: confusion, annoyance, maybe even guilt disguised as concern. But Tuesday passed quietly. Wednesday, too. I spent those days at the lake, not doing much, just adjusting, sweeping out the little house, lining the drawers with old newspaper, hanging the wind chimes I'd brought in my tote bag, the ones Lucy made me years ago with shells and string and love still clinging to the knots. I found a local shop that sold honey and bread, got to know the neighbor 2 lots down, a retired nurse named Alma with a dog named Trouble and a laugh like thunder. It wasn't paradise. The floors creaked. The stove smoked the first time I lit it. There was a squirrel in the attic who had grown entirely too comfortable, but it was mine. And for the first time in a long time, my time was mine too. The calls started Thursday morning. The first was from Daniel. I let it ring, no voicemail. Then came 2 texts. Mom, where are you? Everything okay? A beat, then silence. I made tea, read a few chapters of a book I'd been trying to finish for 3 years, sat outside with a blanket across my knees and let the wind fill in the blank spaces between thoughts. That afternoon, Kelly called. Her voicemail came through sharp-edged, trying to sound casual, but wrapped in thin panic. Hi, Anne. We noticed your key, and the jar, and the note. I don't know what this is about, but we're all a bit confused. Can you call us, please? I didn't, because I wasn't confused. Friday came with more urgency. 7 missed calls by noon, 2 from Daniel, 1 from Kelly, 1 from an unknown number I guessed was her mother. Then the girls, Abby's sweet, shaky voice, leaving me a message that nearly broke my resolve. Grandma, did we do something wrong? Mommy's mad, and Daddy keeps checking his phone, and Lucy cried at bedtime. I miss you. Are you coming Sunday? I held the phone in my hand for a long time after that one. I sat on the front step of the cabin, the lake shimmering in the early afternoon sun, and let the weight of her voice sit in my chest like warm stones. I didn't reply, because I wasn't gone to punish. I was gone to preserve. And silence, my silence, was not revenge. It was clarity. Saturday morning brought a long message from Daniel. No greeting, just this: you could have said something. We didn't mean to hurt you. You could have told us what was bothering you instead of disappearing. I sat with that one a while. How does one explain that years of being dismissed can't be undone with a single "didn't mean to"? That slowly, day by day, I had been packed into a corner of their life like an appliance. useful, necessary, silent, that this disappearing was not an act of vengeance, but of emergence, that I had been speaking all along, in muffins, in bedtime stories, in silent grocery runs, in jars of coins they rolled their eyes at, and they had simply stopped hearing me? You don't explain that in a voicemail. You don't explain that at all. You live the explanation. By Sunday, the calls slowed. By Monday, they stopped. A final text from Daniel read, I hope you're safe. I hope you're okay. I guess you just needed space. I just wish you'd said something. I didn't reply. Because I had said something, I'd said it with every step out the door, with the jar, with the note, with the quiet. I'd said it when I chose myself. And now, all the things they wanted from me, the rides, the casseroles, the background support, they all sat in a glass jar on their kitchen table, empty. Mornings at the lake come slowly. They unfold rather than arrive. A soft blue light through the lace curtain, a bird's call rising like a question, the faint creak of trees waking with the breeze. I never knew I would love silence this much, not the silence of being ignored. I've lived with that for years, but the silence of choosing your own sound, the kind where nothing is demanded of you, where you are not performing usefulness. You are just being. I still wake early, out of habit, but there's no need to rush. I put the kettle on the stove and sit by the window while it heats, watching the lake fog drift like a dream that hasn't quite let go. The tea tastes better here, maybe because no one talks over it. Maybe because I can finally hear myself sip. The cabin is small, just one room, a nook for the bed, a reading chair by the window, and a stove that now works properly thanks to Alma's cousin, who came and fixed the flue. I've placed a photo of Lucy and Abby by the windowsill. I don't hide them away. I don't erase what was. I just don't center my life around waiting for it to repeat. There's a small bookshelf now, a handmade quilt on the bed, a wooden crate by the door where I leave my boots, and a small broom to brush off the leaves. Every object in this space has purpose, not just utility, but meaning. I don't keep things anymore just because I feel guilty letting go. On the top shelf near the stove, there's a jar. It's the same one. The glass is now clean, gleaming in the morning light, empty. It no longer holds coins or explanations. It holds air, light, a space that I don't need to fill to justify its worth. It's a reminder, not of what I saved, but of what I stopped giving away too cheaply. Myself. Sometimes I sit on the porch with my knitting. Other times, I walk the trail to the ridge, where you can see the lake curve like a secret only the trees know. There's a bench up there now. I carved my name into it, small and neat, so that when I sit, I can remember I built this. I claimed this, not in defiance, but in peace. The girls haven't called since April. I think about them often. I hope they're well. I picture Lucy drawing, Abby climbing trees. I still love them. But love, I've learned, does not require erosion. It does not demand that I become less so someone else can stay comfortable. As for Daniel, I imagine he still wonders where it turned. Maybe he thinks I'm being dramatic. Maybe he's embarrassed. Maybe he's hurt. That's okay. He's allowed his story. But I have mine. And mine ends here, not in bitterness, not in shame, but in stillness, in a house by the lake where no one laughs when I collect what matters. The sun is setting now. The sky outside is painted with gold and lavender, and the birds are quiet again. I pick up the jar and hold it for a moment in my lap. It is weightless, and for the first time in decades, so am I. The laughter is over, and my savings, every quiet coin, every quiet kindness, are finally working, not for them, for me.